How do you get better at mixing and mastering? Practice, yes, but also knowledge. These books have helped me find the best tools for mixing and mastering, deal with problematic mixes, build great sounding spaces, get more clients, and manage my money. Let's get to it. The first book, Ethan Weiner, The Audio Expert. Now, to create high fidelity masters, you must understand signal flow and how processes affect the audio quality. Now, Ethan in this book describes the 4 pillars of audio fidelity: noise, frequency, distortions, and time or phase. The first pillar of audio fidelity is noise. Now, this pertains more so to dialing in my analog chain and setting up my gain structure. But by looking at this harmonic plot here, we can see where the noise floor is for one of my most favorite plugins, Michelangelo. It's insignificant, and even as I dial up this gain, that noise stays really low. The second one is frequency response. Now, this is wildly important. This is going to blow some people's minds. Even with everything at 0, the frequency response plot changes. But that's not just it. You're looking at these numbers here, 1 to 10. Most people would assume going from 5 to 6 might be a 1 decibel boost, when in fact, going from 5 to 6 is almost 2.5 decibels boost. And this is really good for when you're getting new tools and trying to learn it and understand where and how it pushes and pulls. That's really important. The third pillar are distortions, mainly harmonic ones, but also inharmonic distortions, mainly in the digital realm like aliasing distortion. But for this case, we're going to look at harmonic distortion profiles and then listen to this. And the best way to do this is through a Hammerstein graph. And this graph shows the level and frequency response of each harmonic order. So you've got your in the yellow, the third order harmonics, in the red, the second order harmonics, and then so on and so forth. And what we can see is the third order harmonics actually very present in the subs. So tonally, there's quite a lot of harmonics being introduced in the sub frequencies with just this in Unity. And to demonstrate this, I've actually got Michelangelo here in Unity, perfectly level matched to itself, so before and after. And let's actually listen to those subs. You're going to need a big system or have very good range headphones to hear this, but you'll hear in the subs that low end just extend a bit further just by having this in Unity. Okay, so let's have a listen to this. Very subtle. It's very, very subtle. If we just get a kick drum here, you'll hear it. It's very subtle, but it adds those subs, those harmonics to the subs and just makes it slightly thicker. Now, this isn't a demonstration to say this is what you should do to get more subs or thickness, but it's about understanding your tools and how it interacts with the signal. And the final pillar of audio fidelity that I learned from this book is phase or time bound. And there are 2 graphs we're going to look at for this. First is the phase one in the frequency response chart. And you can see where phase is rotated to make particular tonal changes. So when I go to make an EQ here, you'll see the phase shift in that frequency region in order to make that. That's more important for when you're looking at the accuracy of multiband limiters, like something OTT versus Dyne-1. If you look at OTT, the multiband compressor, you can see all these phase changes on the crossovers, whereas Dyne-1 is perfectly phase coherent. And the second one to look at is the oscilloscope. And what we can do here with the oscilloscope is we can actually see how the waveform symmetry changes based on the settings we put in. So this is at 55 Hertz, the oscilloscope. And as we push this tube compression, we can actually see that waveform go out of symmetry. Now that's pretty interesting because as you go up in frequency range, it still loses that symmetry, which means you actually lose headroom. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Now, are you ever going to be driving a sinusoidal waveform at 400% there? Probably not, but it's good to understand what aspects chew up your headroom or change the waveform and how it does that. Bob Katz Mastering Audio. If you've ever EQ'd a mix in mastering and the mix just falls apart, this next technique is going to save you a lot of headaches. It's multiband upward compression, otherwise referred to Bob Katz in the book as tonalization. So here's how I use it. Typically, I love to run Bob Katz's tonalization strong. This just tends to work wonders for me at negative 20. And we're going to listen to this in A/B, but we're going to set it up in two different ways. Just like this, it's upward compressing signal from each of the bands. So it's compressing it really hard and bringing it back up underneath the original signal. At Unity default setting like this, at -20 across the board, it tends to favor compressing the low end a lot more and leaving the top end a lot more open. So not as much compression going on there, which means a lot of the transients and bounce comes out of the top, which is nice. And we're going to set up a second version quickly where the amount of compression, so we'll unlink these, we'll dial in the compressors to be very even. And by making it very even, instead of it getting really poppy or snappy in the top, and you get a more even sort of glue to the mix that brings out the low level detail. And I'm going to show you how this saves your ass when you're struggling to EQ a mix. So let me set this up quickly. Now this is all dialed in, let's listen to the differences between the more punchy top-end version and the more evenly compressed version. All right, let's have a listen. Just want to loop that clap there. I like the brighter one, I always do, where it's just a little bit more snappy. Now, if I wanted to EQ a little bit more punch out of that kick drum, that's in this band here. Now, if I was using a normal EQ, I'd bring up all the detail, but with this, I can just bring up the compressed portion of this signal. So if we solo this, and we'll bring it up a little bit, and then drop it, then monitor everything. So let's just drive this up a little bit. That's nice. And where's the smack, that pokiness of the drums? That's too high up. There's a good spot. So let's undo that one. 17, right, -17. Now we've effectively brought up the low level detail in those regions. So I just level match that now. Let's listen to it before and after. Just smacks a little bit harder, especially on those kicks. Take a listen to that. Just got that little bit more poke and nose to it, which is good. And this is a really useful way to be able to manipulate the tone of an overall mix without actually going hard on EQ and trying to crank 2-3 decibels a gain in a particular region and throwing the whole balance off. Now, Master Handbook of Acoustics. If you've ever put numbers in a room mode calculator or done room EQ wizard tests and you're hoping to understand it, you're not alone, because it's sort of like just shooting in the dark. I'm currently building a new house, and when I sat down with the drafts person, I spent some time reading this to actually understand what the data meant. So when I put room mode calculations, what did that all mean? This book details how to calculate room modes. Okay, the manual method of doing it. Doesn't mean the room mode calculators are redundant. They're very important because it makes doing large sums of equations very easy. But it allows you to understand how room modes are directionally proportionate to the axes of your room. It details how axial, tangential, oblique room modes propagate and actually how much interference they have with the tonality of an enclosed space or room. And the beauty of having this sort of information at hand and in book where I could reference it and look through it in detail was I was actually able to optimize my room dimensions for the most accurate and even distribution of room modes that I could with the limitation of my ceiling height, which I think were for Americans 11 feet, 11-foot ceilings or 12-foot ceilings, whatever they are. They've got higher ceilings in there, so that's sort of what limited the other axes for the room's dimensions. So, and that's knowledge I think every engineer should have at least a base framework of. It doesn't mean you have to be an acoustician, design your own room, but it helps inform decision makings when setting out a room. Where do you put your desks? Where do you put your monitors? How do you set things up, especially if you're moving around a lot? This book, very valuable. Okay, here is the secret to getting more people to want to work with you. Zag by Marty Neumeier. This is an incredible book. It's a very easy read. It's not like one of those technical business books. It's almost like mini blog articles, okay? This is another good book, Positioning, okay? But this is the old school business style read, is it verbaceous? What's the word? Verbose sort of wording. This is very simple, okay? And I scribbled all over mine when I was reading it. And here's the scribble I wrote at the bottom of this page, which still holds true to my business today. Panorama helps you achieve a sound which connects listeners with your music, okay? Now, that's for producers, engineers, labels, and artists. If you go look at my webpage, my Instagram, my email footer, this has been a statement which has guided everything I do and helped people resonate or align their values with mine. And earlier in the book, it calls on the reader to define, what do they do? How do they do it? Who do they do it for? Where do they do it? Why and when? This is really good if you're a bit confused about how to get clients in, or who is your ideal client, or where do they live, or, like what is your value proposition? This offers quite a lot. And it's more than just a branding statement, but it lays out an entire strategy. And this doesn't require an e-course or guru coaching. You just get the book. When you read it, have a pen, scribble all over it, think critically about the information that's in here, and then move forward. This book, The Richest Man in Babylon. If you get paid a lump sum on a project, pay your bills, and blow the rest of your money on pleasure, then you're back at square one, needing to get another project for the next big payday. This book is all about managing money and effectively. And I'm going to show you my financial strategy for sustaining cash flow in the business. And a lot of how I manage that cash flow is based on the principles laid out in this book. Firstly, all the money that comes into the studio goes to the studio's bank account. And this is treated as a separate entity. It's not me, it's the studio. And then I treat myself as an employee of the studio. Then every week, my revenue is split up and allocated accordingly. The first 31.5% goes to tax withheld. Another 10% goes into goods and services tax in the tax withheld account as well. So that's 41.5%. Another 10% goes towards retirement fund. Another 10% goes into the studio expense account, and then the studio pays me a fixed weekly amount. Now, if I have anything left over after this, it stays in the business account, and that's actually a good thing because it means the business is profitable and it's moving forward. And I can use that profit to either cover my quiet weeks of the studio or reinvest it at my discretion. But it's not for using as fuck you money to be used on whatever. I don't use that excess at any point to just go piss down the drain. It's about sustaining a profitable business. So this book here is an excellent read, business aside, for anybody. Even if you've got a day job, this is really good for managing your money. And this is the final book, Show Your Work. And this is by Austin Kleon. This is very similar to Zag in that it's like a bunch of articles with lots of imagery and graphics, very easy to read. It says in it, if your work isn't online, it doesn't exist. My whole marketing strategy for the studio is to show people what I do. Now, not this YouTube channel. This is actually a separate venture to my studio, but my Instagram page is solely releases, video clips, and credits, showing people what I do, allowing them to align themselves with the people they see I work with and accredited and who share the same values. It doesn't have to be harder than that. But if you do not show your work, literally show your work every day, every week, someone else is connecting with the community and providing value that you are not. And if you're not providing that value, why you owed any attention or any business or any connection with the market if you're not willing to show people what you're doing? Now, it's a great book and it's more deeper than my simpler explanation here. Nonetheless, it's a great read to break the ice, especially for those who are timid or shy of dipping their toes into sharing what they do at the studio. So there you have it. That's the final book. Literally have a pile of about 20 books here on the ground. And I'm like, I read all these and some of them I love. Like there's the Dalai Lama there, The Art of Happiness, Steve Jobs. There's Marcus Aurelius, Meditations. What else is on the ground there? I'll show you. I'm not bullshitting. Like literally, they're all there. But I went through those books and I'm like, oh, they're good, but I need to give people what is like the juice of things I'm actually doing regularly at the studio and that is engaging me in my practice. And these are the books I ended up picking out. So anyway, Hope you enjoyed that. Until next time, take care.